It seems to me that Toronto has kind of a split personality, a civic schizophrenia. On the one level, there's the spirit of, individuals and small groups who do things, what you might call the vernacular spirit. This is all very informal, ingenious, quite romantic, and full of fun, a great deal of fun.
Half-recognized guilt and complicity, and a profound sense of loss. It's all glass and glare and glitz and false panache. Instant New York rigor mortis imported into Toronto. I thought I would be intrigued. In fact, I was simply numbed out. It's the experience of reducing life of the mind, life of the spirit, or eros, the erotic life. It's simply reduced to the jigglings of the genitalia. It doesn't really matter what gender you are. They're all genders in there, they're all mixed up. But it's reduced to the jiggling of the genitalia. Eros dies. Any joust with the gods dies. It's just sex across the counter with a drink. They're not sex hustlers in the usual sense of the word, as far as I can see. They're all busy hustling careers over each other's bodies.
The needs of this community. Not only does it need core services in regards to housing, in regards to shelter and clothing, meeting your needs and like having a place to clean, right? Like public access to the bathroom. It's also trying to meet the needs of a community that really likes lattes. So it's the dynamics of the collision in this community that is happening, that we're experiencing right now through this gentrification, that is embodied in our local community center space.
You've got a lot of people living really close together. It's quite clear that you have to set the bounds as to exactly how far people can go, what the limits of behavior are, what the limits of one person's property are. And the way that that's best expressed in the city is in terms of the fence. I think it's fascinating that wherever you go in Toronto, people have erected those fences in either bushes or wood or stone or what have you. They recognize that you have to do that if you're going to survive fairly well in the city. And it's not a sign of hostility toward other people, it's a sign of getting along with other people. Things actually do come together. It can only happen because around it are a great deal of intense activities, people working in great close proximity to each other, or shopping, or in fact living relatively closely to each other. And it's sort of that all that comes together in the square. Part of the success, I guess, relates to the fact that it's enclosed. It's not limitless, but around the exterior of it is a limit, a fence, that says, hold on a second, we've got some activity, but it doesn't go forever. We have to set human limits, where things actually do come together. It can only happen because around it are a great deal of intense activities, people working in great close proximity to each other.
Today there's Koreatown here. There's a Somali community over there. And here there used to be some Italians, and there's a little Harbor Greek community there. And then of course if you go south, you find a Portuguese village, a hipster city on Queen Street. I think that's it.
Another interesting thing that's been done there is the old part of the city was, of course, once the old commercial and financial heart of the city.
It tells me about his journeys, waits outside Super Bargain, takes a phone call at Stampede. He is someone who takes a meeting and makes a friendship of it, navigates with an open heart for a walk. It tells me about his journeys, waits outside Super Bargain, takes a phone call at Stampede. He is someone who takes a meeting and makes a friend.
What amazes me about traveling in the streetcar is that you see so much activity on Queen Street. There's so much variety. There's shops, there's people living above the shops, and then you get into small apartment buildings, and great diversity. So that when you're riding in the the streetcar. In fact, it's an interesting thing to do. It's not like the subway where you're simply trying to get somewhere as fast as you can. It's a ride that you can enjoy.
Hey, man. Hey.
The design of the inside of the streetcar is really nice for people. Not only does it accommodate a lot of people traveling together, but it gives the people their own sense of space. The seats are divided into two, so you have your own place to sit. It's a perfect expression of how Toronto works, accommodating the individual, but having a good sense of groups of people working together.
Now we are just at 4th Avenue, we're on Center Avenue, and we're going to the place called Optional Beach.
In terms of being a child, or being young in Toronto, I found the boardwalk extremely powerful as an influence. I mean, it was the only place in Toronto where one was allowed to be an individual who, in fact, was pitted against the world. The rest of the time, you're always part of this great morass, but it was the boardwalk that allowed me, and I'm sure lots of other people, the opportunity of being dreamers and trying to figure out what one's stake in the world really was. You get the same feeling with the smokestacks, that you're walking on the boardwalk and you're sort of alone. But when it comes to it, obviously you aren't. You're in a city. Being on the boardwalk means that you're part of the city, even though you might also be on your own at the same time. But of course, this is where the city meets the lake. The city doesn't do that as often as it should. It's one of the few opportunities where this great big place that really sits on the lake, in fact, experiences the edge of it. I always wish that had happened more in Toronto.
For the root, the gardens over there, giving away the green. His wife cooks up a soup for health reasons. Will. Everyone needs a vice to nurture. We've been substituting since we were baby sucking. Lady with lipstick. I'm giving out pliers from Parkdale Depot. I know they're down the street, but I was going to meet someone outside here. Jay and Mary. He writes a lot of stories. One about a man who imagined all his lives. Like the no frills at Dundas, but they were going to the Jameson one today to buy tickets.
But up until that time, to feed the city, the food had to be local. 1884, they built a railway, and that changed things. The food could come into the city fast. But up until that time, to feed the city, the food had to be local. 1884, they built a railway, and that changed things. The food could come into the city fast. But up until that time, to feed the city, the food had to be local. 1884, they built a railway, and that changed things. The food could come into the city fast. But up until that time, to feed the city, the food had to be local. 1884, they built a railway, and that changed things. The food could come into the city fast. But up until that time, to feed the city, the food had to be local. 1884, they built a railway, and that
There was a creek there as well, and it covered it up. There's only a few grades that you can actually still hear water, because water is underneath. So it's running underneath the sea. There was a creek there as well, and it covered it up. There's only a few grades that you can actually still hear water, because water is underneath. So it's running underneath the sea. There was a creek there as well.